How's it going, everybody? My name is Mike, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to be counting down the top 10 worst movies I saw all year. So let's go ahead and just get started. So it's the end of the year, obviously. So we're going to be going over like the end of the year lists as always. Actually, I don't think I've ever done a top 10 best and top 10 worst video here on the channel, but because usually it's actually a lot of difficulty trying to decipher which ones I want to put at the bottom and which ones I want to put at the top, because there's a lot of really good ones and also a lot of bad ones every year. But I think this year I can put a solid 10 here on the list. So with that out of the way, let's get into the top 10 worst. Coming in at number 10, we have Knights of the Zodiac. Now, thanks to my friend Grant, who recommended this one, because it is a so bad it's good movie. And I kind of enjoy this movie, so that's why it's not lower down on the list. But honestly, it is a funny bad movie. It is kind of well made, even though it's got a terrible amount of lens flares. Uh, Genuinely just an awful adaptation of this goofy manga, I'm guessing it is, or a graphic novel. I'm not really sure what it is, but yeah, this was not very good in the slightest, but I enjoyed it in all the bad ways. Coming in at number 9 is a movie that was the complete opposite of Knights of the Zodiac. It was so bad that it bored me to tears, and that is Meg 2 The Trench. So, this one is unfortunately a sequel to a movie that I actually really enjoy, which being the first Meg. I find that one just kind of entertainingly stupid, like stupidly entertaining. And this one, unfortunately, was stupidly boring. The complete opposite of what I thought of the first one. Up until the very end, where there's some pretty fun little action sequences, this movie is really, really boring. And the CGI looks like garbage in this movie, man. Like, holy crap, I didn't think you could get worse than something like Knights of the Zodiac with CGI or The Flash, but somehow we did. So yeah, Meg 2 The Trench was not good at all. Number 8, we have The Exorcist Believer. Now, I enjoyed this one when I first saw it in theaters, but thinking about it, it got way worse in my mind. Mainly because of the fact that this is an Exorcist sequel. If this wasn't an Exorcist movie, this would be actually a lot better to me, and this wouldn't at all be on the list. But this movie was not good as an Exorcist sequel. For starters, the way that they use the main marketing with Chris coming back, Chris McNeil, was actually awful. They only have her for like 10 minutes of the movie, so if you literally wrote out the last name McNeil, then I think you would have been perfectly fine not calling this an Exorcist movie, because there's literally no other ties to the original Exorcist or any of the other movies regarding anything else besides Chris and Reagan McNeil. And the thing is too, though, is that the third act is not very good at all. But the first two acts, apart from the Chris McNeil stuff, I actually really enjoyed. I didn't think it was super preachy like some people say, and I get it, like, if you don't want to hear people like just talking about the Bible for 20 minutes or whatever. I don't really care, honestly, because a lot of the stuff that they were like preaching at you were like actual like decent references to the Bible. But yeah, honestly, I thought the movie itself was okay, but as an Exorcist movie, it's not good at all. So it's not as bad. I don't think it's as terrible as people are saying. But yeah, it's not very good either. Number 7, we have Insidious The Red Door. Now, this one is, I think, worse than The Exorcist Believer, because this one, unfortunately, is just a very boring movie and just uses borrowed love from the rest of the series. Now, in terms of actually being a horror movie, it's not good at all. And maybe as an Insidious movie, it's a little bit better. So it's kind of like the opposite of The Exorcist, but I enjoyed The Exorcist like as a movie by itself a lot more than I enjoyed Insidious The Red Door in general. So what I mean by it's just borrowing love from the other Insidious movies is that the really good parts in the movie are literally taking place in the other films. So, like, it was just annoying to me. I don't know. It bored the death out of me. So, yeah, can't recommend Insidious The Red Door, unfortunately. Coming in at number 6 was a movie that I was hoping to be a pretty fun little action thriller, but really wasn't, and that is Ghosted. This was just a very boring slog of a movie. Chris Evans and Ana de Armas were okay, I guess, but this is definitely not their best work. Um, yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you another thing about this movie other than the main two leads. Not great. Not great at all. Before we get on to the top 5 worst, I want to run through my most disappointing movies real fast because there were a lot of disappointments this year, and so I couldn't put the most disappointing movies on this list because I feel like that would be really unfair because there was a lot of really bad movies this year. But I did want to mention them because, disappointing and worst kind of go well together. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and run through those. Number 10 most disappointing is Paint, the Owen Wilson kind of Bob Ross movie. I had no clue what was going on in this whole movie. It was so weird, and I really didn't enjoy it at all. Number 9, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This was supposed to set up the big bad of this new phase in the MCU, and now, especially with the court trials, it's not looking like it. Number 8, It's a Wonderful Life, or not life. It's a Wonderful Knife. Sorry. Okay, this one is not very good at all. This is a really boring slasher movie that has the killer reveal right at the beginning of the movie. Why? Who knows? Who knows? Number 7 is Haunted Mansion, a movie that I was just hoping to have a really good time with, and maybe it was just because I had a really bad theater experience, but I didn't enjoy this movie. Uh, Unfortunately, it was fine, and I liked the callbacks to the Disney ride, but other than that, kind of forgettable, honestly. Number 6 is We Have a Ghost. Um, so this one is the new Christopher Landon movie, and they cast David Harbour in it as a ghost, and I was like, that could be fun. But then they decided to put their most charismatic actor in a silent role. Why? Who knows? Number 5 is Hypnotic. This one looked kind of interesting. It was a Ben Affleck and Robert Rodriguez team up movie that was a thriller of some sort, like a sci-fi thriller. And man, this was a boring movie. It's like 89 minutes or something like that. I couldn't tell you a single thing that happens because it is so weird and confusing. It's just I don't even know at this point. Number 4 is 65, a movie that I don't hate like a lot of people do. But honestly, it was just really disappointing because this had a really cool premise, really cool setup to it, because it was written by the guys who made who made the Quiet Place movies, and this just wasn't good, like at all. I mean, on a technical standpoint, because you have this premise that's kind of like set up in the trailers where it's like a present day human goes back to the dinosaur ages and has to like fight his way through dinosaurs. But then right at the beginning of the movie, it's not that premise at all. It's not what you think it's going to be, and it's just really disappointing, unfortunately. Number 3 is Napoleon, a movie that I walked out of in the theaters because man, was this movie boring and disappointing. Some of the action looked kind of cool, the visuals top notch. Everything else was not good at all. Number 2 is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I enjoy the movie. I think it's good, but it should have been way better than what we really got. And number 1 is, unfortunately, the new Zack Snyder film, Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. Uh, I am a huge Zack Snyder fan. I love a good portion of his movies. The only one I don't particularly like is Sucker Punch, which just is really confusing. And this one is probably my second least favorite of his because as much as I love Zack Snyder, um, his visuals are fantastic. The performances in this movie were good. This movie just really didn't work for me. I know that we're getting a director's cut of this movie sometime like next year, but man, was this movie just a massive, massive disappointment from beginning to end. It just felt like a 2.5 hour long trailer for the actual movie, which was really annoying. Even though I liked the movie to an extent, it's just really, really disappointing. Getting back to the worst movies of the year, number 5, we have a movie that's a little bit higher on the list than maybe some people would have expected, or lower on the list actually than probably some people have it. Is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, because this was my worst of the year for like the longest time. But thinking about it, I moved it up because technically this movie is so bad it's good. On a production standpoint, this movie is terrible. The acting is atrocious. The dialogue is atrocious. The visuals are awful, and the costume designs too are terrible. But this movie is a so bad it's good kind of movie. Really thinking about it, it's not good in any means, but at least I can have fun with it. Other than some other movies that we have down on the list. So yeah, I kind of enjoy Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, but for all the bad reasons. Number 4 is Expendables or Expendables 4, which I did a review for on the channel. And yeah, you probably didn't expect it to be this low on the list because there's some aspects that I kind of enjoy about it, but man, is this like an insultingly bad movie. The way that Sylvester Stallone is treated in the movie is really, really not great because he's legendary. The dialogue, the green screen, the CGI, it's just kind of an insult to classic action movies, and it's really disappointing that the Expendables that were a tribute to classic action movies have just flipped the switch and gone the other way. It really is disappointing, but you know, whatever. Number 3 is a little horror movie that came out at the beginning of the year that I never forgot with how bad it was somehow, is a little movie called Fear. Now, you probably haven't heard of this movie because it dropped in some theaters and then also went straight to Vudu and VOD and stuff like that. So I watched it on VOD and it was rough to sit through, man. The marketing for this movie looked pretty cool. The movie was way worse than the marketing. And I don't think I've seen a movie that has such a huge gap between its marketing and the movie itself with how terrible it is. Because, man, was this movie awful to sit through. Such a snooze fest and is really, really, really not fun to watch. It's like so dark you can't see what's happening. The actors are terrible. There's awful CGI in the movie. Just effects in general just weren't good at all. But man, what a rough one. Coming in at number 2, we have the Children of the Corn remake. That was shelved for like 3 years. Oh, Jesus Christ. How was it shelved for 3 years and they just decided to put it out? Anyway, yeah, this movie is rough. It's CGI terrible, acting terrible, dialogue terrible. Yeah, this movie was a rough one to sit through, and for people that this was like their first Children of the Corn movie, I'm sorry, but this one was not a good place to start. Yeesh. But coming in at number 1 is technically a horror movie. At least the marketing looked like it. Nefarious. What in the world was this movie? Not at all what the marketing made it look like. This movie is awful. It's basically just two guys sitting together preaching about like anything and everything. It's just like preaching about weird, really, really weird, dark stuff, and it's just really not good at all. The dialogue is terrible. The acting is really not good either. This movie was terrible, and I wish I never sat through it. So there you guys go. There's my worst of the year, and also my most disappointing movies of the year. So let me know what your least favorite movies and most disappointing movies of the entire year were. And please hit the like button, subscribe, And stay tuned for my best of list that should be coming tomorrow as of when this is releasing, if I get this schedule figured out. But yeah, happy holidays, everyone. Hope you had a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year as well. So yeah, peace.